Okay, sorry guys. Today's is a little longer. I didn't realize the software I was using only lets me record 15 minutes at a time. But I want to make sure we're going through all the steps in the thinking. So sorry for the second video. Here's where we left off. We were saying, how do we divide these two fractions? And we divide fractions by keep, change, flip. So keep, change, and flip. And 1 times that, we're just going to multiply this time. And I get sine x over cosine x minus 1. Remember, a good strategy is to change anything to sine or cosine. Is there anything left in there that I can change to sine or cosine? No. It already is sine and cosine. So this is my final answer. Again, I know that's the hard part of this. But when there's nothing else to do to make your expression simpler, that's when you know you're done. All right, one more and then we're done. I promise it won't be long. So next problem. Like I said, first good strategy, change anything to sine or cosine. Well, what do you see? Everything there is already sine or cosine, so we can't do that step first. How do we add fractions? We make a common denominator. And I found it's always a good practice if you write it as one fraction when you're doing this. So remember, to make a common denominator, you take one of everything. So that means I'm going to take a cosine theta. And I'm going to take a 1 plus sine theta. And then I ask myself what's missing from the first fractions denominator to the new denominator. So in my first fractions denominator, all I see here is a cosine. So I'm missing this 1 plus sine in my new denominator. So I'm going to take the sine theta that's there times the 1 plus sine theta that I need for my new denominator. Plus, now looking at my second fraction here, looking at my denominator, what do I see if I have to multiply 1 plus sine theta to get to my new denominator? I'm missing a cosine theta. So the existing cosine theta in my fraction times the cosine theta in the denominator. I mean, to make it equivalent. All right. Okay with that? Let me write it one other way. Make sure you can see. Let's do it this one. So here's my fraction on the right-hand side. Okay. And I want to get the denominator to be this. 1 plus sine theta. Sorry, it's kind of messy. Hold on. Okay, so I want the denominator to be this. It's 1 plus. So you ask yourself, what do I need to multiply this by to get to this? Well, I already have the 1 plus sine theta. I'm missing that cosine theta. So I have to multiply this times cosine theta. Whatever you do to the bottom, you got to do the top. Okay, so that's exactly what I have right here. This cosine times cosine theta times cosine theta. Hope that helped. Now all I see to do, let's clean up the top. So just simply multiply. Then we got to distribute this to this and distribute this to this. So sine times 1, sine theta, plus sine times sine, sine squared theta. Remember, the squared goes on the sine always, not on the angle. We're not squaring the angle. And then plus cosine times cosine gives me cosine squared theta. Still over, we didn't do anything with the denominator. Still over cosine theta and 1 plus sine theta. All right. You see anything in the top that looks familiar? I see a sine squared theta plus a cosine squared theta. That's a Pythagorean identity. First one. Only one we've used so far. What does sine squared plus cosine squared equal? 1. So sine theta plus 1 over same denominator. Okay. So now look top to bottom. Look at your numerator versus your denominator. See anything in common? Is sine theta plus 1 on the top the same as 1 plus sine theta on the bottom? So yes, you cancel or reduce, whichever way you want to think about it. So this cancels with this, and we're left with 1 over cosine theta. Can we make 1 over cosine theta any simpler? Look at your reciprocal identities. And I see that 1 over cosine is equal to secant. Whoops. That was not good. Equal to secant theta because of a reciprocal identity. And nothing else can be simpler than secant theta, so that's my final answer. Okay, sorry I took a couple extra minutes than before. I encourage you to make sure you practice these. I only gave you about not even barely 10 problems for the first assignment. Make sure you do that one first. These are something that take practice. It's hard to just sit there and look and say, oh yeah, this is going to become this. So take some time, practice those first 10. I'll put up another video tomorrow, but I highly encourage you to do the assignments in order because they kind of get a little more challenging as we go along. All right, feel free to call me or text me anytime. If you don't have that number by now, I don't know where you've been for the past 2 weeks. All right, take care. Bye.